Hello and welcome to another video of Web3JS Do-It-Yourself tutorial. In this video, we are going to deploy a smart contract using Web3JS. I'm going to discuss the steps that how we are going to deploy, and then we are also going to look at how we can change the file that we created earlier or the set of commands that we created earlier and use this. We are also going to look at Remix, where we have created the smart contract in Solidity earlier. So for that, please refer to my Solidity videos as well. So let's get started. So number one, we are going to get the ABI for the smart contract. ABI is application binary interface, and we are going to get this from Solidity. Get the data for the smart contract. Data means the hex of the entire input data. We're going to look at that as well. These two prepared steps need to be done in Solidity Remix. Once we got ABI and the data, then we are going to create the transaction, very similar to the previous one where we sent the Ethereum, some kind of a currency from one account to another. Then we are going to sign the transaction and then send the transaction to the blockchain, which has the contract. Well, with that said, let's see how to get the ABI and data from the smart contract. So go to the Remix. This is fifth table contract. Please refer to my earlier videos on Solidity, which tells you in detail how we created this. Now, we are going to go and compile it. So I'm going to click on compile. It compiles successfully. And at the bottom, you would see compilation details. Please understand that we are not going to deploy the contract, just compile it. So click on compile, and you would see a big list of things. Here, one of the options is ABI. ABI gives you an input on what kind of variables are there, what kinds of functions are available, and various different information about the contract. So we need this, and then we would need under Web3 deploy. If you open it, there is a data element. If you copy the entire thing, it's going to help you deploy as well. Very simple, but we don't want to do that right now. We are going to focus on data. So just go ahead, copy like this, and go back to our Replit where we had created the index. Now, what we could do is we can, so this is the file that we used, or these are the set of steps that we used in the previous video of sending a transaction from one account to another. Now, I'm going to create a constant contract data, and I'm going to paste it, whatever I copied from there are two single quotes, and remove the comma. And then if I go up, there is one data. I don't need this. I just need the pure data element like this, right? So constant contract data, and this is huge, and this is making our file unreadable, right? So I'm going to, for now, keep it like this, but then I can change this to a different file. So I added data here. It's too big, right? I have had a word wrap, and it's looking very, uh, very big and unreadable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to say ABI data.js, and I'm going to say include. It doesn't have to be like you, whatever you need, you can give the name. So include abi.data. Here I'm going to copy and paste this so that it remains in a separate file. So I'm going to copy, cut, and paste it over here. Make sense? Also, I need the ABI. So I'm going to say contract ABI is constant ABI equals, and then I go back to Solidity. And in the ABI, there is a small copy. Just click on copy and then paste it over here as is. So this is your ABI. So ABI and data. Now, these two constants are in different JS. Therefore, I have to say like this: module.export, and in the file, I'm going to say module.export, and so like this, module.exports equals, and I'm gonna say contract data and contract ABI. So what is this gonna do is I can access contract data and contract ABI from any other file. Make sense? So module.export and is equal to colon, bracket, and the variable names. Make sense? Let's move ahead. I go back to index.js and I'm going to include the file. So I'm going to say in this area, this is the, by the way, you can also copy this and create a new JS file and keep it for your reference. This is the signed transaction. This is from the previous one. So I'm using the previous thing, and then I'm going to say var include required dot slash and this file, rename and copy the entire thing and go back to index and paste it over here. So var include constants required, and then I'm going to create two constants like that. I'm going to say constant contract data include constants, which is a where dot contract data. That means the contract data and contract ABIs that are defined in this file are available here. Again, so require the file name .js. I am pushing it into a constant variable, right? You can make it a constant as well, no worries. Now here dot contract data and this dot contract ABI, because these two variables are in this file and I'm assigning it back to the contract data variable of index.js, right? This is very simple. So this is the change. Add these steps, 3 steps. Make sense? Now let's look at from the top. So I need this, I need this, I need the Gorilla infra URL. If you're a URL, I need the from account. I don't need the to account. So I'm going to get rid of this. I need the private key of the from account. Please look at my previous video how I got this private and key from the environment variable. All right, now these are two things, contract data and contract ABI, that I need. Now let's look at that. This is web3.eth.get transactions, transaction count. From account, I need from account. This is the account, and when you go to the MetaMask on the top, this is the account. So 3816, right? 3816 ending in 3816. Now nuns is fine. Look at my previous video on none. So I don't need value, right? I'm not transferring any value, but I need gas limit. Make it a big number, right? So I'm going to make it like 1 million. So I added 1,026,000. Random number, very huge number. But this is my gas limit. That means if the gas consumption goes beyond this, this is going to fail. And if you make it a small number, you would see a lot of errors saying that it expired or gas limit out of pound or whatever, right? So you make it as a very high number. And in the data, instead of this, just put contract data. So one more time, what I made changes from the previous file was added these steps in order to include contract data and contract ABI from a file which we created earlier. And this data set we got from Solidity, ABI and data. Next, in the index, I removed the to and value, and in the data, I added contract data because I'm now going to be writing a transaction to deploy the contract. Going back in here, create the transaction object, sign and send. So sign is very simple. As in the previous video, for sending an Ether value, sign transaction object is going to be a new TX. TX is the Ethereum js.tx.transaction object. Chain name. Chain name is Curly. And then dot sign using the private key account. Private key account, I use that to sign it. Next is serialized object. You have to serialize it to make it a raw transaction. Add hex starting as 0x to the serialized object. It becomes your raw transaction. And then web3.eth.send signed transaction dot raw transaction. And this is on receipt, log it onto the console. Let's run it. What it will do is it is going to deploy, and I'm going to make it a little bit space for the output here. So it's running, and when the transaction happens, yeah, so this came back. Let's look at it. So it gives you multiple things. First of all, it gives you a contract address. So I'm going to copy the contract address and paste it. So copy the contract address because we have to read this contract later. So I'm going to make it a little bit. The contract ADR equals, this is the contract that was deployed. Let's look at the transaction. So I copy the transaction and I go back to Goerli Etherscan. So it is goerli.etherscan.io and search for this transaction that we just did. And you see that the transaction was successful. And you could also see that a contract was created. And let's look at here. We put, remember, 1,026,000. The gas fees that was used was 662. This could be different depending upon the number of transactions, traffic, number of nodes. There are multiple things that decide the gas limit. To make it a big number in order to avoid any failures. Even if the transaction fails, you would see in this particular page saying that, you know, gas fees ran out of gas fees or gas limit or, you know, something related to gas. And make sure that even if the transaction fails, you have to pay the gas fees that was used in order to create this contract. Now, once this contract is created, I click on it. You see that it was created a minute ago. If I go to contract over here, you would see the data. You should see the same data that you put. Remember, the data started from 0x60 and it ends in 8080033. Let's look at that. Go back to Ripple, expand this, go to the include ABI file, and if you look at the data, it starts with 00x60, and this data scroll down ends with 8080033. That means this is good when you're writing the contract. Now you can look at the opcodes, click on switch to opcode, and you see this is an operational code, opcode, that it creates. And if you look at it, it says that we found another 2 contracts with the same matching bytecode. That the reason they found these 2 contracts is because during testing I deployed this contract. That's why you are saying that there are 2 more contracts that kind of match to this. You can verify and publish and make this your own contract as well. We're not going to go down to that level, but this is the contract deployed. Now, from the Web3, let's go and read this contract back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to in the thing, and then I'm going to read it, the contract. So I don't want to create the transaction, right? So I'm going to only read this. So what I'm going to do is I have defined the contract address, and I'm going to define a new contract handler. So what it does is the contract handler is a new web3.eth.contract, and I'm going to pass the contract ABI and the contract address. So the address and the ABI I'm passing over here, and then I'm going to quickly say console.log contract handler. Now this time I don't want to create a contract, right? So I'm going to just, you can comment it out for now. I'm just removing it, and I'm going to add this back later. So this is the code. I'm going to run this. It's going to read the contract and show you the contract here. So now let's run it, and you would see that it shows you. So look at that. This is the contract that it ran. So contract, this is the Infura, and you have agents, you have input address, and then you have all the functions that are written here. You can see each and every detail, who is the owner of the contract, the method. You remember in the Solidity, you have contract owner, from list, form address list, last run, min ETS, deposit crypto, withdraw crypto. This is what the functions were. And you can see all of those details over here. This is how you would create or deploy a contract using Solidity and do this. So I'm going to paste it over here back, and I'm going to say read the contract that was created in the previous step. All right, so this is how you would create and read the contract. Once the contract is done, you can explore the contract on the testnet, goverly.etherscan.io. So with that said, thank you for watching.